One day, Jesus looked up, and what he saw stopped him completely. If you've ever felt invisible, overlooked, or like nobody notices your pain, this story is for you. Stay with me, because what happened next will change the way you see yourself forever. And if this kind of content speaks to your heart, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a story like this. It was an ordinary afternoon in Jerusalem. The streets were busy, loud, full of people rushing past each other like strangers always do. Jesus and his disciples had just left the temple, a place that was supposed to be a house of prayer, a place where people came to meet God. But even there, in the middle of all the religious activity, something had gone wrong. The rich had turned worship into performance. Giving had become a show. And Jesus, he saw it all. As they walked out, the disciples were looking up at the temple walls. Big, beautiful, impressive stones. They were amazed. "Teacher, look at these massive stones. Look at these incredible buildings." But Jesus wasn't looking at the walls. He was looking at people. And then, right there, near the offering box, he stopped. There she was, a widow, old, alone, dressed in worn-out clothes that told the story of a hard life. She walked slowly, quietly, like someone who was used to not being seen. She reached in her hand and dropped in 2 small coins, the smallest coins possible. In today's money, barely a penny. Nobody clapped. Nobody noticed. Nobody turned to look. But Jesus did. He turned to his disciples and said, "And I want you to really hear this." He said, "I tell you the truth. This poor widow has given more than all the others." The disciples must have looked confused. More? She gave almost nothing. The wealthy had walked by before her, pouring in large amounts with confident hands. Surely that was more? But Jesus kept going. They gave out of their wealth. But she gave out her poverty. She gave everything she had. All she had to live on. Everything. Think about that for a moment. She didn't give what was comfortable. She didn't give what was left over after the bills were paid and the fridge was full. She gave when there was nothing left. She gave when it cost her something real. She gave not because she had much, but because she trusted God with what little she had. And in a world that only applauds the big, the loud, the impressive, Jesus stopped the moment. He called his disciples over. He made sure this woman's story would be told. She never knew he was watching. She never knew her small act would be recorded in Scripture for thousands of years. She never knew that heaven was taking notes. And that's the part that should shake something loose inside you today. Because here's what Jesus saw that changed everything. He didn't see the size of the gift. He saw the size of the surrender. He didn't measure what was given. He measured what was kept back. And when he looked at this woman, he saw something the crowd completely missed. He saw faith in action. Real faith. Quiet, humble, costly faith. We live in a world that is obsessed with what looks big. Big followings. Big salaries. Big platforms. Big donations. And it's so easy to feel like what you're doing doesn't matter because it's small, because nobody's cheering, because you gave your time and no one said thank you. You showed up when it was hard and no one noticed. You prayed quietly in a room by yourself. You gave when your own account was nearly empty. But Jesus is still watching. He still stops for the ones the crowd walks past. He still calls heaven's attention to the faithful few who give not out of abundance, but out of trust. Your small act of obedience is never small to God. Your quiet sacrifice is never invisible in heaven. What you offer with a surrendered heart, no matter how little the world says it is, Jesus calls it more. So today, don't be discouraged by how little you feel you have to offer. Don't compare your handful to someone else's overflow. Just give what you have, where you are, with a heart that trusts God for the rest. That widow walked away not knowing she had just been seen by the Son of God. You're seen too. And if this story encouraged you today, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to be reminded that they are not invisible. Subscribe for more stories that bring the Bible to life. And drop a comment below. Tell me, what small act of faith are you holding on to right now? I'd love to hear your story.